Hey, what's up, guys? Alright, so Attack on Titan Chapter 115 is out. It actually has been out for a few days. I'm late with my review on it. But because I did not also do a review for Chapter 114, before I get into 115, I'm just going to go quickly over my thoughts on Chapter 114 and how I feel about it. So basically, after reading Chapter 114, I actually kind of dig the fact that we finally kind of get to see Zeke's backstory, at least from his perspective. Especially now that the fact that we've already saw Zeke's backstory kinda during Grisha's flashback before the 4 year time skip. And now when you have the two of them to compare each other, you can understand exactly why things went down the way they did. Because alright, in Grisha's flashback, we saw Zeke as like this unloving, uncaring kid who, by the end of the flashback, or by the time he ended up betraying his parents and selling them out, it made sense that he would, because through Grisha's eyes, he just didn't seem to care about his parents at all. But then when we look at Zeke's backstory and we see his perspective of everything, we see that Zeke actually did love and actually care about his parents. But because of all the constant pressure and the disappointment that Grisha was putting on Zeke at early childhood, because he wasn't living up to the expectations he needed him to in order to enact their plan, Zeke's love and affection that he had towards his parents, especially towards Grisha, basically turned into fear. And because of the fact that he wasn't getting the love that he needed from Grisha as a fatherly figure, he seeked it out elsewhere with that person who ended up becoming his mentor and passing on the beast time to him. And because of the fact that that person showed him the fatherly love that Grisha wasn't giving to him, he was ultimately able to basically be convinced by that person to sell out his parents in order to save himself and his grandparents. So basically, the lesson you should learn from looking at Grisha and Zeke's relationship is that if you're a dickhead to your kid, they're going to sell you out and get you killed. No, all right, in all seriousness, they're not. The real lesson is basically just don't be a dickhead to your kids. Show them some love. And it was also kind of interesting finding out more information about exactly where Zeke got the glasses from, and the fact that his mentor, like everything that he learned about from his mentor, and finding out more of his mentor's backstory in the last chapter near the end of it. After finding all that out, I can understand. All right, after seeing Zeke's history with his dad and his family, and how much pressure and like how much misfortune and like agony they put him through, and seeing what happened to his mentor when it came to his wife and child, I can understand why at the end of the chapter they come to the conclusion that they basically need to euthanize all Eldians so that after this current generation, no more will exist. Like the entire race will be wiped off. I can understand how they got to that conclusion, but I don't agree with it. And I personally don't agree with it because I believe that the two of them learned the wrong lesson from their experiences and from the experiences of the people around them. Like when it comes to Zeke, okay, sure, his dad was a dickhead. His parents, or at least his dad, at most part, we could see that his mom actually did care about him. But his dad was shown to be like unloving and uncaring in his eyes. That's not really like the pain that he suffered from Grisha isn't enough to justify him thinking, okay, we should euthanize the entire race so no one can have to suffer like I did from my dad. And then when you think about the fact that he also based that theory off of what happened to his aunt, it should come down to basically the lesson they should have learned is that it shouldn't matter if you are a Marlesian or an Eldian. You should all just be treated equally. Like what happened to his aunt, it shouldn't matter the fact that she was an Eldian or she was a Marlesian. What happened to her shouldn't have happened to anyone, especially a little girl that young. And when it comes to his mentor's backstory, when it comes to his wife and kid, it shouldn't have mattered whether or not he was hiding the fact that he was an Eldian over the fact that he wasn't really a Marlesian, because she still loved him enough to marry him and have a child with him. So the revelation that he was actually an Eldian, not a Marlesian the entire time, shouldn't have drove her to commit suicide and kill their own son. That's just the bottom line. So that's really the lesson they should have learned. But because they were so wrapped up in their own guilt and their like own misfortune, they failed to learn that lesson. And that's the reason why they ended up coming up with the plan that they ended up coming with. I know Black Clover is not really the first series to do this, but basically the message that series puts forward with Asta and the Magic Emperors that we've seen in it is really the lesson they should have learned in the series. Basically, that it shouldn't matter if you're Eldian or if you're Marlesian. It doesn't matter what race you are. Everyone should be treated as equals. Okay, so finally we get into chapter 115, and we got, alright, I don't know about you guys, but ever since we found out that Zeke and Eren were in contact with each other, that Zeke was secretly working with Eren for a while, and the fact that Zeke's kind of one who basically turned Eren into the terrorist that he's kind of been since his 4 year time skip started, I've been wanting to see exactly what conversation the two of them had, like how exactly Zeke convinced Eren to work with him. And we finally got that in the chapter briefly. I mean, we don't get to see the full thing, but we basically get the gist of exactly how Zeke convinced Eren to join up with him. And because of this flashback that we get in this chapter for that scene, I am now 100% convinced that Eren is planning on betraying Zeke. He's basically waiting for certain conditions to be met for him and Zeke to finally join together to enact their plan to ultimately betray Zeke at the last minute. And the reason why I say that is because of the flashback we get when we see the two of them talking and the Eren's response to when Zeke asks him to join his plan to euthanize all Eldians. Because in that response, we see that Eren talks about the flashback about that he got from their father when he had his memories. And it's the fact that basically he saw that their dad killed children in order to get the Founding Titan abilities and then pass it on to Eren. Now, sure, you can honestly understand if Zeke, with basically the reason why he decided he wanted to euthanize all Eldians, you can understand that alone would probably make Eren want to join up with Zeke and continue on with his plan. But the thing is, that flashback that Eren had, we see that he got that flashback, or he got that memory from Grisha back during the coronation when Historia became the queen. And here's why that's a problem. Because a few chapters ago, we saw Connie, Jean, Armin, and Mikasa all talking to each other about exactly what they're going to do with Eren. And during that conversation, we got a flashback to when Sasha was still alive, they were all still working together, they were working on a railroad, and they basically started the conversation of who should succeed Eren as the Attack Titan and the Founding Titan, and basically take over his Titan abilities. And during that conversation, Eren says that he's not going to let any of them take on his abilities, because he wants them all to live long, happy lives. Now, that conversation happened after they met up with the Japanese country, and after they basically started working on the plan of using Zeke and using the Founding Titan abilities to do the rumbling. And basically what it comes down to is that he got that memory way before he had that conversation with them. So if that's the case, if that memory is the reason why he believes that all Eldians should be euthanized, then why would he sincerely say that during that flashback we saw? There's no reason for it. So because of the fact that we had that flashback a few chapters ago, and this is revelation that we're getting as to why Eren decided to join up with Zeke, it has me 100% convinced that Eren is only using Zeke's, and especially because of the fact that we saw during that flashback, when Zeke asked Eren to join up with him in his plan, Eren paused for a second before answering him. That split second is an ensuing factor. That split second is enough to convince me that yes, Eren has no real intention to join up with Zeke. We also find out that in order for Eren to activate the Founding Titan abilities, he doesn't have to eat Zeke. All the two of them have to do is touch each other. We find that out from one of Zeke's final conversations with his predecessor. Now, here's the thing though. His predecessor also says that he would have to find someone who fully believes in their plan in order to enact it, because even though Zeke is a major factor of Eren using the Founding Titan abilities, as soon as Eren touches Zeke is out of the equation. Like, Zeke has no control over what Eren does. Eren is in full control, and he has the ability at that point to affect all Eldians across the world. Now, this is what I think is going to happen. I think that once everything comes down, and once all the fighting's done, it's going to come down to Zeke and Eren. Either Eren will officially eat Zeke, or they will hold hands, they'll touch, they'll do something in order to let Eren activate the Founding Titan abilities. I think what Eren's going to end up doing is eradicating all Titans, save for maybe Armin and Annie. So yeah, basically after reading the chapter, I've come to the conclusion that Eren's original goal from the beginning of the series of wanting to eradicate all Titans for what they did and basically all the misery and pain they caused to his people is still his ultimate goal. And I think he plans on sacrificing himself, maybe letting Armin and Annie live simply because of the fact that Armin's his best friend. And Annie, kind of just for story reasons, Annie's basically kind of the love interest for Armin at this point. And that's the only reason why I see her living. And plus she's in the crystal, so maybe that will somehow not affect her. I don't know. But basically, I see him using his abilities to eradicate the Titan gene from existence. That way, no one could ever use Titans to take over the world like the Marlesians plan on doing. He is basically a fucking genius. Because up until this point, with everything that's been going on, I even forgot that Eren's original goal was to destroy all Titans. I had to go back and watch the first season to remember that. And now that I had that in my mind, and now that I see the events going down and exactly predicting what's going to happen, I fully believe that's where we're heading, and I'm excited to see if I'm right about that or not. Okay, other things that happened during the chapter, we get to see a quick conversation between Yolanda and Pixiv. It basically just comes down to Pixiv telling Yolanda that you've basically become what Marley is. Like all the things that you hate about Marley, the fact that all the things they did to your people that you hate about them, is the same thing you're doing to us. You're basically treating us like second class citizens, or basically taking over the same way Marley did to your people. So it's basically a conversation of showing that she's no better than the enemy that she wants to defeat. Also, a quick thing, we see during that conversation that the black guy who was working with Hanji, who swore that he had no idea what was going on with Yolanda and basically what her plan was, we see him there and he's kind of still acting like her second in command. So it has me questioning whether or not he was just bullshitting Hanji this entire time, or if he kind of just jumped ship and was like, hey, I mean, they're winning right now, so I'm going to save myself over you. I don't know what's going on with that, but yeah, it's pretty much what happened with that conversation in that part of the chapter. Speaking of Hanji, we start the chapter off with her. We see that her and I forget what the asshole's name is, but the guy who basically who's holding her captive right now, as he's trying to lead them to as he's trying to get her to lead them to Zeke. Basically, they see in the distance what happened at the end of the last chapter with Zeke using the Thunder Spear to blow himself up and try to kill Levy in the process. They see that happen. They head over there near the end of the chapter. They see basically Zeke's like burnt corpse, like Levy's burnt corpse, and Hanji tries to convince them that he's dead. He's still barely hanging on, but he's pretty much on the brink of death. Then, while they're arguing about whether or not Levy is still alive, we see Zeke emerge from this Titan's stomach, which, by the way, I forgot to mention that earlier on. After Zeke used the Thunder Spear to explode himself, we see this Titan come up, and originally I thought it was his mom's Titan, but then I remembered that she died a long time ago. So we don't exactly know who this Titan is, but we see this Titan come up. She rips her stomach open and puts Zeke's like torso, which is pretty much the only thing left of him, inside of her. And then from Zeke's perspective, we see that she used some kind of ability. Like in his mind, it was basically that she molded him a new body from clay, but she used some kind of Titan healing ability to save Zeke's life, because he was on the verge of death at that point. Now, we don't know who this little girl is. As far as I can remember, we've never seen this little girl before. And this also begs the question of what's going on with her Titan. Like, is she a Titan shifter? Like, is she a Titan shifter that we have not heard of it up to this point? Because she has more intelligence than any normal Titan that we've seen throughout the series. Because of the fact that she was able to ascertain that Zeke was someone she needed to help, had the intelligence to rip her stomach open, and then her human self actively healed him over the mindless Titan that she should have been. So I don't know exactly what's going on with this little girl. She's the biggest mystery that we got from this chapter, and I can't wait to see what the revelation with that is. Oh, but yeah, Hanji ends up escaping after they all get confused by Zeke emerging from the Titan. He basically tells them to let her go because Levy's on the verge of death anyway. He's probably not going to survive. That's going to come biting in the ass later on, but who cares? Then we cut over to Eren, and we see him talking to Gabby. He's basically trying to convince her to work with him, and he's using Falco's life as like a reason why she should work with him, because of the fact that if she does, he will save him. I guess I don't understand exactly why Eren needs Gabby. He says that he needs her to send a message, but he could easily do that with anybody else. I mean, they don't know that Zeke's people are betraying them at this point. So he could have had Yolanda and them send a message, a distress call or something. He doesn't need Gabby. I don't understand why he would think he does. It's kind of just plot convenience at this point. But anyway, while he's talking to Gabby, trying to convince her to work with him, we see Pika, the Titan shifter, come in the room. She kills the guard that was with Eren, holds him at gunpoint, and that's pretty much where the chapter ends. So we now had the Marlesian invasion kind of fully starting. We already knew that they were there somewhat, but now I guess the invasion is actually going to fully start off. So now we're at the point in the series where we officially have three factions. We have Eren and Zeke's faction, we had the Paradise Island Soldiers faction, and we had the Marlesian faction. And it's going to be a all-out war between the three factions. I'm guessing it's going to end with the Marlesians being defeated, and the Paradise Soldiers being defeated, and Zeke and Eren ultimately winning. With Zeke, like I said, Zeke letting Eren use the Titan abilities, the Fountain Titan, and then Eren screwing over Zeke in the last minutes. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for the chapter. That's it for the review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. Comment down below with your thoughts and theories on what happened in Attack on Titan chapter 114 and what happened in this past chapter 115. But that's pretty much all I had to say about the chapter. I can't wait to see what happens next month. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.